Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Denver and Rio Grande Western Iron Horse Route. This is Brian for archive purposes. Happy 4th of July and Independence Day 2019. Good morning to John and Steve and Art, and Bill's here too. Good morning, Bill. Still a little sleepy, but wanted to come on early. I'd like to go on kind of a little bit throughout the day today, maybe hoping to piece them together at the end for like a live stream day. Considering grilling on my portable. I've got a smaller Weber. I only use charcoal. I don't use gas. When I smoke meat, I use real wood and charcoal. And when I grill meat, I use charcoal. And so I have a Weber, a big Weber, and a smaller Weber. And I'm thinking about putting my smaller Weber right over here this afternoon and being live a little bit while I'm grilling. I thought that might be cool. Problem is, it's gonna be hot, and I have to open and close that door a lot. I have a new update on my Logitech capture software. I'm kind of come over and see how y'all are doing in a minute, but I want to tell y'all what's going on. My light is not like it was yesterday, and so I need to make some adjustments. The layout, the update for my Logitech capture software is awesome. I talked to Bill about that because Bill was looking into getting a camera one time, and we were talking about cheap alternatives. This was about $40 from eBay, and it comes with a software. And this new software with the update, one of the new camera options is my YouTube Live Dashboard Studio, which I don't know exactly what that means, but it's cool. I can tell you that in regard to showing videos during a stream, in regard to having an intro and an outro for a stream, and all those kind of things. It opens up a lot of possibilities. I also saw that I have new camera options on that thing where there's split screen, side by side, window and window. Some of them I had before, some of them I didn't, but I wasn't able to use them since I couldn't connect to the YouTube studio. So I said all that to tell y'all there's gonna be some times today where I could be doing some testing type stuff, and so things could be wonky. Anytime you test new stuff, y'all know it doesn't always work, rarely. Roy ended up being successful on his Google Hangout. I think he did yesterday, a Google Hangout, and but then he got into some bad traffic or something and had to cut it off, but it does work. And Mike, good morning, Mike. How are you? We're glad to have you here with us. Topics today are grilling and smoking meat, and using great stuff foam as a scenery base, and not so much that because we talked about that a lot yesterday, but what I'd like to talk about more today is how to prepare that great stuff for a riverbed, to create a riverbed inside of it. Plaster of Paris type. I've got to put something in there because it's porous, and my water will seep through. So I've got to put a layer down. And what I did over here yesterday, per our discussion, I have a little area in my helix right here, behind where I'm building a little, what would be my house in the El Dorado Canyon area. I have a water basin, a water supply for the house over here. And so I did a test yesterday from the suggestions that I was given. I used paper towels, PVA, isopropyl, some Mod Podge, all mixed up, and I dabbed it in there. It set hard. Then I laid my my kind of rocks for the bottom of the basin, which is like basically just two big ballast that we talked about yesterday as well. And I'm going to get an answer about that throughout the day today. I'm going to try. But anyway, this is hard now and ready to accept paint, and then it'll be ready to accept water. I'm doing all that as a branch experiment because I'm laying water in here this week, or this in the upcoming weeks, real close. This is my experiment. All right, my first attempt at making water. And yeah, no, we're not smoking the foam. I'm gonna turn on a light that has not been on before, and it could go nuts in here. This could be so awful. And so if it is, I'll turn it right off. I just want to try to show y'all this a little better. Anyway, I'll leave it on just a sec. It's hard to do this. I need to just. What I did was there's Woodland Scenics deep pour water underneath, very clear, not tinted at all. Then I used DAP 3.0 crystal clear caulk to make what is supposed to look like the moving water on the top. Now, I've got to do all the white and light gray dry brushing everywhere still to include the water to give it the appearance of the flow. But this is my first attempt at a mini diorama, and I have enjoyed doing it. What I do is I work on it, and I was working on it, and when I poured my water in it, the water went through. So I didn't waste much water at all. I learned real quick that I needed to seal it better. And so I took that experiment, because I couldn't do it here again, I took that experiment to my water basin over here. And so it's a sub-experiment. It's an experiment branching off my experiment. I feel like a real nerd right now. Anyway, now that that's hard over there, my sub-experiment, I will see how the new alternative, what I'm intending to prevent that from happening, the clear water soaking through. I'm going to be able to test that over here before I do it here, again, to prevent me from wasting product and money, because I don't have any. I'm going to kill this light. You're going to tell me what y'all thought about it. But yeah, it does. Steve, I agree 100%. You know, it was lighter, and I kind of, well, you know what? I started off with a very dark base, and I've been trying to bring the light to it. Now, I agree. It's too dark. It doesn't look like Colorado rocks. And, you know, I've got a lot of touching up to do, but I've learned a lot about what I don't need to do over here, which is exactly the point. That's what I was trying to do. So I thought this would be really cool, you know, like my mom loves stuff like this. Like I'm probably gonna put my first steamer that doesn't work anymore, even though it looks kind of cool over here. I think I'm gonna probably put it on here and maybe give it to my mom as a gift. She would much rather me do something like this than buy her something. One time when I was really poor, I melted a bunch of candles into this huge Christmas tree. I melted candles into a Christmas tree and melted lights into it and stuff. I mean, I spent nothing, a lot of time. Came out really cool. She featured that in her house for a long time. Yeah, now what I would like to know, tell me about your modeling technique, Bill. Light to dark with color art. And I'm learning, and so I think you're right. I really do. Like I said, you know what's really cool about it though is working with something like this. I can turn all the lights off in here except for the little overhead, that bright. I call it my Luke Doan looking light, you know, because he's got everywhere. Anyway, I'm not trying to compare myself, please don't think that. Anyway, I can sit up there with no sound. I can actually have the camera rolling on it while I'm working on it. I can sit up there in a chair, just, you know, and I'm not standing, I'm not moving, you know, and I got a little area that I'm working on and I'm paying attention to. It's not overwhelming in size. You know, it's not like I don't look at it like, whoa, I got to get everything covered. You know, it's and kind of the idea I've been playing with. Oh, the homemade sculptor mold. I want to know about that. I do for sure. Um, what I was thinking though is, you know, many, I could make these like this and then put them in the layout and connect them together. I mean, I've actually seen there are people who sell terrainscapes, I think they call them, and they basically make, you know, to size whatever somebody orders. They make their things and send them to them. Well, I mean, I'm not trying to go into business, but I mean, for myself, I could take on my normal thickness of hardboard that I lay my track on and my cork on, and I could do pieces of scenery and place them into the layout. I think that would be cool. I could also build a layout like a puzzle, a piece at a time, a small one, like for my daughter or something. And I could actually work these where they could connect together. And I mean, to include track. I know I'm getting way out there with this, but it could happen. Now, one thing you would never want to happen is you wouldn't want your track to join exactly where your wood joins. So the tracks would have overlap, in my opinion, to make it workable. And that kind of creates a problem with the theory, but that, you know, you think there's something to think about. I just thought I enjoy working on something small. It's kind of cool, particularly when you're used to working on something that, I mean, is not huge by any stretch of the imagination comparison, but it can be overwhelming, you know, to look at all that foam at once to work on. And I've really got to kind of do it a small piece at a time or I'll mess it up. The tracks connect at the joints. I mean, and you know, it I realize that it needs to, but you know how they suggest, John, you know how they suggest that um, where your cork meets, don't have your track, your rail joiners there. And so that was my thinking, you know, is really what my thinking is, you know, those Kato extenders, that's what you do. You set a Kato track with an extension in here where you can pull it out, you know, a couple centimeters and then connect them. That would be cool too. Although I guess you wouldn't, that might not be necessary now that I'm thinking about it. I kind of just felt like where it would connect at the modules, if you had a lot of little ones like this, I don't know that you would, if you had a lot of little ones, I don't know that you would want the track on here. Maybe you could have the cork and everything but the track. But I would make the mod and then lay the track in because it just seems like there'd be way too many. But you know, in regard to mini modules, I mean, imagine on a 4x8 or a 4x4 even. Imagine on a 4x4 if you had 20 of these. Okay, you probably, it just seems like at too much at the joints. It just seems like too much level, and it just seems like it would be extremely. It doesn't seem like it would work to me. So, Bill, how did the homemade Sculptor mold come out? Bill did a homemade experiment with Sculptor mold. Um, I had two experiments fail miserably with the caulk, but it turned out I really like the caulk. The caulk looks great coming down that from up close. Um, I'm gonna have to watch some videos on how to paint the white to make it look proper. I know it streams and tails off. I've watched a couple, but um, It did work good. So, I mean, just briefly, what did you do? Steve's ahead of me. Steve Arnold. Y'all know Steve wasn't the one that I was saying was I was smarter than yesterday, right? Yeah, I would assume, Bill, that we probably don't have too many original ideas. Somebody's probably done it. Funny story. I thought I came up with the great stuff foam idea until I YouTubed it. I really thought of it on my own, and so I'm a model railroad prodigy. I've discovered the wheel, and then I looked at Ron had 4 videos on it and that kind of stuff. I just started another device because I kind of want to. I'm going to do some tests in a little bit, and I kind of want to be able to see what's going on instead of just going, what's happening? Hey, Bill, do you follow that Luke APS guy? He does modeling stuff, I think. I mean, I've watched his water stuff, but from my impression, just kind of from the background, it looks like he does. Shred toilet paper and mix in powder joint compound 50/50. Okay. Let me ask you this. How do you feel like it's going to respond to slight temperature changes in regard to cracking and stuff? You think I mean, how do you feel it? How do you feel about it in regard to cracking? Ah. Hey, Colin, good morning. How are you? Happy 4th of July. We're glad to have you with us. We are. And how's it going on Collins Engage Railway today? Who's cooking today? I marinated my pork right before I clicked live. I was almost a minute late, but I put the pork in, and I forgot to actually do one thing and ran back real quick. But it's soaking now. I have some Kingsford hickory charcoal. Bless you, Bill. You have a wife who grills? Whoa. Well, I didn't. I guess I'm assuming you're grilling. I I was in the store this morning. I went. I scheduled. I did the thumbnail, and I scheduled the stream, and I made a couple comments, and I ran to the store. And I was in the store, and I was thinking, because I basically have 3 hobbies, and one is gardening, one is model railroading, and one is smoking meat. And at some point or another, one of the three always had the forefront. Model railroading kind of does now. And what I was thinking though is, to properly garden, you got to spend money. Now I'm gardening right now, and I have a nice little garden going. Oh, oh, okay. So you're not at the you're not where your layout is right now, Colin? So does Steve B. Oh yeah. Well, anyway, what I was saying is, it was a point in time a couple years ago where smoking meat was my what I did, and I did it well, and it cost a little money to do that, and that was like my hobby, and it was my primary hobby. And then there was a period of time where gardening was my primary hobby. I've added model railroad, and I really don't have much room for others because I have a daughter and those kind of things. But um, hey, Jerry, good morning. Happy 4th of July to you. We're glad to have you here. It's very nice. I was kind of hoping that some people who normally are at work would get to stop in. And it seems like that's happening a little bit. So I'm proud about that. But we were talking about, Jerry, we're talking about smoking meat on 4th of July, grilling meat on 4th of July, cooking on 4th of July. Great stuff foam as a scenery base. What colors that I need to paint my riverbed to match my Colorado theme. And now I spent 5 years there. I've seen a lot of it, but that doesn't mean anything. I found out because some of the stuff I'm doing by my eye isn't coming out exactly like I want it to. So I'd love some suggestions in regard to cooking today, recipes, what you do, smoking, grilling. Would love some suggestions on how to prepare my creek or riverbed that's going to go in over here. I'm looking for kind of colors. One thing I would like to mention is I I don't want it dirty. And Dave mentioned yesterday, BNSF Dave Inscale mentioned that the water should be dirty, and he's right. But I'm not going to make it dirty. I'm not going to make it crystal clear, unbelievable, but I'm not going to make the water extremely dirty. And on with that, I'm considering not tinting the water. I have deep pour, clear Woodland Scenics water, and it really, you can see through it very good. If I prepare the bottom the right color, it's going to look fine. I think. I'd love to. Y'all tell me if I'm wrong. I'm stubborn, but I don't want to have to redo it. And so I got some experiments going to test all that stuff. And Art, bless you, Art. Art, say, I appreciate art. I'm grateful for art. Art just said that in the 1950s, the Colorado streams were pretty clear still. That's excellent. That's a great thing to know because I agreed 100% with what Dave said, but I didn't want to do it. And Art just gave me the out. Yeah, John, I know. Because we glamorize our memories, particularly in places we love. If I close my eyes and think of Colorado, I don't think of being in Lodo, at the outside the station, a block from Union Station. I kind of think about being at St. Mary's Glacier. Oh yeah, Roy, we doing test pours, my brother. We got one here. We got sub test pours going over here this evening. And yeah, the Coors commercial. That was exactly what I was thinking about, Art. It really was. Exactly what I was thinking about. Do y'all got water on y'all's layouts? Hey, that dude, Drew, did y'all see his Independence Day? Go watch that. Not right this second, but when I get off, he has, it looks like he's either photoshopped or he's got real water. He's got real water on his layout. Or either that it's photoshopped. I kind of feel foolish for not being able to know, but I think he's got real water. Is that real water? Good morning, Martin. How are you? Martin, actually, it's funny you mentioned that because one of the things we're talking about is that did happen, indeed happened. I'll actually prove it. Look, you see the bottom? Look, that indeed happened. Okay, John, I feel kind of foolish for not knowing that, but boy, it sure looked good. I mean, it looked real. Um, Man, that is a fantastic little video he shot. I'm gonna tell you what. That's right. That's right. Um, oh yeah, yeah. I just, John, you said flag waving does too. I honestly could not get my eyes and thoughts off the water. I don't know that I saw any of the rest of the video. I mean, I watched, it played a couple times, but I don't know that I watched it. I was looking at the water, and I mean that's what I'm doing right now, so that's probably why. But back to you, Martin. What we were saying is because this leaked out, this was my experiment. I only poured, how was it, 24 grams, and so that wasn't much. And then I sealed it again, or I sealed it. I sealed it. I didn't seal it the first time. I don't know why I didn't think about that, but I sealed it the second time, poured another 24 grams, and it's looking good. So what I did over here is I've got to be able to seal it on a large scale because I'm taking water at about 2.5 inches, between 2 and 3 inches. All right, water is going to come all the way through here. Now I've got to have a product or something to put down that, all the way through there. So what I did, we talked yesterday, I have a water basin over here in my El Dorado Canyon area that I'm going to have for the house, the water supply for the main home in El Dorado Canyon. And so what we did yesterday is we talked about that. I used paper towels, PVA, white glue. PVA is white glue. Isopropyl, some Mod Podge, mixed it all up, blotted it on there with a paper towel, let the paper towel dry hard, put my rocks in, did it again, just kind of like I would do ballast, I did with the rocks. That's dry now and ready to take paint. I'll paint it and I'll do another test pour. Okay. If that works fine after a day, if I know after a day it's good, I'll come in and start laying that same product through here. I've got carving to do in here that I'm going to do today, and I'm going to work on that. And I am going to kind of be live throughout the day today, off and on. So I hope y'all kind of watch for that. I'm not getting off right this second, but I'm not going to stay on for an hour and an hour and an hour. I'm going to probably do some smaller stuff because I want to do some work. I want to be on live chatting with y'all. I want to do some work. I'm thinking about grilling live right outside here. I think that might be fun. It also depends upon, what's going on around here today too. I've got to get some other people's schedules as well. So, like I say, yeah, that's nice. We have, I think we've exceeded 10 before, but not much. Now, one of the things, small pours, Bill, yeah. I'm kind of learning that. And one of the things I noticed too is that the less I pour at a time, the less wasteful I am, the more I do it. Oh, there was something I wanted to show y'all and I didn't do it. I'm going to show you next time. But here it is. I'm going to show you now. All right, so watch this. So I poured, right? I used the cup that they gave me and I poured. And, I've watched videos on making the effects for waterfalls and stuff, and people, they'll pour the caulk and they'll do it out and they'll bake it in the oven and on a wax paper and they'll pull it off and use it for a waterfall. Well, because I'm lazy, left the stick in the cup with the just very light remnants of the water. Well, when I pulled the stick out, look what I got. Those are waterfall effects right there. So I've got a little drip going here that I'm going to apply that to. It gives it the it gives it the shiny effect of the water dropping. And I didn't have to bake it or anything. I was just lazy, and it came out. I was proud of that. When stuff like that, I get excited when stuff like that happens. So what I have done, yeah, I watch APS. He's cool too. He's pretty cool. But what I did was I hit all this with this. Then I hit all this with this. And briefly, I can't get that close. Briefly, why I did that was when I take the top off of this before I cut it, and these are ready to go rocks. Right now, this still has a skin on top. I didn't scuff the top of this. And so this is not going to hold paint well because of the skin. And one thing I need to tell y'all, though, is you do have to put, what I do is I take a a super thinned out layer of the base color I want to use. And I apply it to this porous section, the porous side, because if you scuff it, it's all porous. It's a rock, it's a porous rock. I will cover it with a very thin paint, very thinned out paint, and let that dry. Then come in with the thicker color, the less thin paint, because your first layer is going, before it dries, your first layer of paint you put on here is going to soak in and you will waste a lot. If you'll just make it really, really thin and let it dry, then it'll take your next layer of paint properly. .200 grit. All right. What I would love to know is a better alternative, a suggestion that you guys have. What would be better to put on this before paint other than thinned paint? What would be a good layer, like, something thin, inexpensive, easy? What could I brush on here before I'm going to add paint? And right now, I just use a very thin version of paint, but I'm sure it's probably something a lot better I could do to put down there. Because, like I said, once you take the skin off, it's porous inside, and it will soak up your paint. Joint compound, is that expensive? Where do you get it? I can't run trains, y'all, because I've been sanding and carving over there, and I don't cover my track. I'm too lazy. I'll clean it. I mean, I won't clean it. I'll blow it off. It's got graphite on it. Container Man, what ratio would I use? Because putting a bunch of plaster on there is kind of counterproductive. That is what I do in places and in points and times, and what I have done, but it's not what I really want to do. I almost feel like I could lay, well, that's trying to think of something that's not labor intensive. I mean, I could come in and lay paper towels with thinned out PVA on these rocks and let that dry. So I'm curious, would a thinned PVA brushed on there by itself work well? That's going to be an experiment coming, because I've got, well, Roy, it will already be sculpted, because it's got to be sculpted like you want to keep it before you apply this product. Because if you start cutting and sculpting, then you're cutting back into the porous material that's going to be exposed. Does that make any sense? Did I make any, or was that confusing? So Bill, and that's probably, then I'm glad we talked about this, because that's probably what we need to do if you're going to use this great stuff. You got to put some kind of layer, cheap Walmart white spray paint. Hey, Dave, you're not. Wait, are you? It's Dave's Trains. Are you Dave though? Because somebody's Mark and there's Stu. Stu's Trains is Mark. Dave, are you Dave? I just want to make sure, because I called Mark Stu for like 20 minutes the other day. Cheap Walmart spray paint doesn't sound like a bad idea, because that bottle would last a long time. It really would. I mean, I don't think you wouldn't mosh through that. You could do that really light too. But all right, Dave, we're glad to have you here with us. We appreciate you. We are going to be on for a little bit longer and going to be popping in and out. I got a product that will take tent well. Will last a year in the fridge, can sculpt rocks, bricks, walls, wood, timbers, but it costs a bit. Give me your address and I'll buy you a bag of it. I will get with you on that, Roy. I'd like to know what it is too, but yeah, I'll talk to you about that. We can get together on that. And Steve, that was something I kind of worried about. You would have to be careful with any kind of spray. I mean, I guess I could shield. It's doable. I actually, though, PVA primer. Well, that sounds interesting. I'd have to buy it, but that sounds like the product that probably would need to be used. I don't know why, Art, but that just sounds right to me. You've been hitting it today. Yeah. All right. Kind of wish my camera was more mobile. I'd like to show you all this little area over here, but well, what I think I'm going to try terrain tutor. That's pretty thin, but I'm probably going to thin that even more and try it, because I've got something to paint. And so I've got a little area that I can hit this with. So thin it a little. I have brushes that are intended just for this. I keep them in alcohol. Dang. Don't have to do a big area. I don't have a lot to do over here, but I will be able to see, I think. This is tell me right here. All right. Needs more PVA to what, Bill? Oh yeah. I have um Scenery July is Scenery July only because it's Scenery July. Because I'll be putting stuff, scenery in it. I could literally probably work over here forever, you know. I'm not going to, but because I want my trains to go further. And I really, I started to get interested in operations, which was dangerous. I watched a video early this morning where the guy was talking about the real operations on his line that he could put in there and the kits he could use to build them and those kind of things. And that kind of caught my interest a little bit to check into and see what industries they actually had in my area in the 1950s. I did a history, so I do know a little bit about it, but I mean, I don't really know details. Like I know how many trains they took over to Moffat Road at a certain time and that kind of stuff. I know coal was booming during a certain time, but that was, I think, before my period. And then the line that I run between Denver and Winter Park, there's not a lot of operations in there. I mean, there's a lot of stuff between Denver and Golden, but after that, there's not a whole lot, which kind of limits me a little bit in regard to the rest of the layout. I'm going to have probably, I'm not going to be prototypical, but I'd like to lean in that direction. So, um, y'all do me a favor if you have not like for me if you would. And we're approaching 45 minutes. So what I'm going to do is ask you guys to keep an eye out. Couple hours, maybe might be popping back in for another 45 minutes, and maybe do that throughout the day. I used the same thumbnail that I used this morning. And so if y'all are around, jump in. I'm just actually gonna, I'm probably gonna get to work over here, and I don't really want to just leave it running, but I am gonna do some work live. The next time I'm on, I am gonna be working and chatting as well. So I want to thank all of you for coming. We had like 12 people at once, which is really cool. We had some people stop in that we don't normally get to visit with, probably because they're off work today, and I appreciate them. That's like Martin and Jerry and Dave and Colin stopped in, and we see Colin a little bit. The rest of y'all fools, I see all the time, but I really appreciate those fools. And like I say, I didn't have a topic. Just wanted to get in and for us to have a little chat this morning, say hello and talk, and go come back on in a little while, maybe for some work, and maybe a little while after that for some grilling, and maybe we can all hang out, just depending upon what our schedules look like. We'll just play it by ear, y'all. Y'all have a good morning. I thank y'all so much for coming in and hanging out with me today, and I appreciate y'all's time. I really do. Thank y'all.